that combination of syllables, biobat, but I'm going to leave it there just so I hate myself a little bit more. But he did this in his match. He did this against a couple of people. He used this to beat Verdi in this map. He actually loses to Verdi, but it's pretty. He wins a lot of his all his TvP actually with this build. He throws it in there, and I don't actually know how well a Protoss player should be able to stop this. So, yeah, he goes for like a 15 gas. So I'm just gonna go through the very beginning parts of this build order: 10 depot, 12 racks, 15 gas. When you're at 14 supply, you rally your SCV over so that as you're hitting 15, your SCV is headed over towards the gas to actually begin mining it. And beyond that, he does throw down an extra depot to block scouting. So nothing bad there, but he just doesn't want, obviously, Verdi to be able to scout him. And Verdi's going to do a pretty standard sentry expand. He's not going to do anything really unusual. So what he does is pretty normal for the most part. And of course, opening up with any kind of defensive play usually leaves you safe. So it's a super standard. You build 2 Marines. ThorZain is going to use his Marines to check around for proxies, and you're going to build a command center and a reactor. So 2 Marines, reactor, command center. Next up is going to be a factory. But ThorZain, before he does that, actually gets a second gas geyser. So before he gets his factory, after the command center begins, he gets a second gas. And this is where things get a little bit interesting. So we'll throw this in here as well. And I'll just put 2 Marines, reactor, CC. I don't really like to go by supply too much, because if you're spending your money as fast as you can, you might lose an SCV, you might lose a Marine or something. I don't know. So I don't really care about that. But I'll put the supply that he had that gets the gas, at least in this game, so you can have a bit of a better understanding. So 20 gas. Then he sends the SCV over, and he's going to build his factory. I'll have just enough moolah to put that baby down. That's going to be at, like, what, 21 supply? Nothing really crazy. And at this point, nothing unusual. He's going to put his supply depots around to be able to check for anything like, say, oracles or anything. He doesn't really scout at all with this build. It's a pretty defensive, safe opener, going for 15 gas, because you can get Marines, Widow Mines, all sorts of wonderful things out, and not have to worry too much. But Command Center's going to finish, Factory will finish, and ThorZain will throw on a starport very quickly and an armory. So it's going to be actually about the same supply mark. So ThorZain's, he's at 28 supplies, so like 28 port, 28 armory. And this build is pretty much designed to just completely smash a Protoss in the face with a really sexy timing, dare I say kinky. So he actually swaps the reactor onto the factory. Swap reactor onto factory. And starts producing. He gets 2 Widow Mines, so we'll say, okay. We'll get 2 mines. These are for defensive purposes, dealing with oracles and whatnot, early attacks, all sorts of things. Out of the starport, we are going to get a medevac, so we'll put that in. There's the first thing that we build out of the starport. Medevac. And yeah, by the way, this barracks does build a tech lab, so I'll also throw that in there. Stop reactor on the factory, 2 mines, start stim. I'll just put start stim there because you know, okay, you need a tech lab for that. Marines start pushing in. We begin Hellbat production after the 2 mines. So this, I don't think I need to write down too much. You know, it's just building Hellbats. That's why we got an armory. Medevac is out, and you go for a pretty quick Hellbat job. And this is not really designed to win you the game, but of course it obviously can. It's just a very aggressive style to open with. But I like it a lot just because Hellbats are very strong, and you keep all your Marines at home. You get these mines for defense. You're not super vulnerable. Builds that can hurt this. If you get a fast enough Oracle, the fact that you don't really get a Widow Mine your Widow Mines are late, sort of, can hurt you. So it's something you have to take into account, but in the current metagame, there's a lot less proxy oracles since so many people are aware of it. And the other thing is ThorZain actually, he doesn't scout his opponent's base, he just scouts the normal proxy areas. He scouts everywhere where you would normally see a proxy, and this is why we don't see ThorZain worry about oracles, because if they're not proxied, nowhere near as much of a threat. And he can always build a Viking out of the starport, he can always get faster Widow Mines, it's not a huge deal. So in terms of his follow-up, he's just going to continue to produce medevacs, going to continue to produce Hellbats, and the Hellbat part is very important. These drops actually don't do terribly much damage for ThorZain, but he's actually going to, we're going to note that he actually focuses down sentries here. Hallucinated Phoenix will scout this. He's going to move his Widow Mine out. And no other production yet. He's going to make a Marauder. He's just kind of working everything in here. We're going to see an Engineering Bay at around, I'll say 840, just because he saw a hallucinated Phoenix, just in case it was a real one. And this is just a bit of an interesting play he does. He drops the Hellbats on to kill the sentries. And this is so important because when you go for a follow-up bio-based attack, being able to limit your opponent's number of, well, I guess you could say sentries. He doesn't have any force fields now. So if you actually look at the unit counting station, he has no sentries, no force fields at all. Which makes, you know, holding up follow-up text harder. And as he's going to send another medevac towards the main, he throws away a lot here, but he continues to just build everything up for this follow-up. His stim is done very soon. Yep, there it is. And he's just got a nice force here, just kind of built out of what he had. He doesn't have... he only has one barracks. Like, just think about the way that this is set up. He's just saturated and is natural now. He has a good number of medevacs, brings them back to repair them. He just kind of forces out the photon overcharge here. And this is very important because Verdi no longer has enough energy on his mothership core to use photon overcharge. So the timing that we're looking to hit here is right after stim is done and pretty much after we do a little bit of harass. So ThorZain is going to take up all of these Hellbats he's been producing all game long. He's going to pull a couple of SCVs. It's about 10 in this instance, about maybe it's more like, yeah, 11, 10 SCVs. And he has a follow-up to this. He's going to take double gas in his natural expansion. He's going to add on 2 more barracks. He's going to get a 3rd command center, plus 1 attack. He has a full follow-up set up. But the beauty of this build is all in the attack. ThorZain loads up all of his Hellbats into his medevacs. So those medevacs he's been producing one at a time this whole game go here. And this is the most glorious part of this timing attack. So your opponent could have a Colossus. There's actually another replay I can show you where he had a Colossus, but it doesn't really matter given the current circumstances. One of the big things that'll hurt Verdi is not having many force fields, so he can't like push this away. He also doesn't have photon overcharge, but what ThorZain does is it boosts the medevac behind his opponent's army and just drops the Hellbats right there. So his opponent that's trying to retreat can no longer retreat. And then at this point, ThorZain just completely steamrolls his opponent. He's killed everything. If your opponent has a Colossus, guess what? Just drop the Hellbats right on that bad boy. It'll be dead in no time. And it's just such a strong way to play. It's really mind-blowing how good this timing attack is. Especially with the Hellbats, you know, and that's also considering the fact that ThorZain didn't actually do any damage at all with his initial Hellbat drops, aside from the sentries, and even then, you know, he still could have dropped behind the sentries when his timing came, so he didn't kill any probes, at least not a significant number of them earlier on, but Verdi will be trying to hold this off. He's got charge lots. Unfortunately, those aren't too good versus Hellbats. He's going to lose the Nexus, and this game is pretty much over, so